Welcome back, Inebri-art. It's me, Andy, as always. And today we have a guest from the other side of the planet, musician Sarah Mary Chadwick. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Andy. Thank you very much. Nice to be here.
So I want to ask you a question. I hope this doesn't come off as, I mean, I know I'm a stupid American. So in your uh, press release, it said that you were a descendant and it had two listings that I will not even try to pronounce. I want to. Is it kind of like here like we refer to kind of like the whole as Native Americans, even though that's like the Cherokee, the Blackfoot, the Wampanoag. Is that
Yeah,
like when we say Maori? Is that like a whole bunch of tribe? Like I never it never even crossed my mind that this was a thing. So that's why I'm interested.
no, that's okay. Yeah, so it's kind of something that I have so it's Māori and Pākehā are the two, and so Māori means well, that's the not indigenous isn't a word that like New Zealanders would really
Okay.
use, but like kind of like I guess like they were the people that were in New Zealand when like it was colonized,
Yeah.
and the brown people, and then the Pākehā is what like Caucasian people are referred to, but it's like kind of like it sounds intense, but it's like New Zealand's so small and it's so kind of integrated
Yeah.
that because they had like sorry just doing a really boring
No,
like
I'm super fascinated. Like I'm a huge fan of history, so it's just kind of like this is like, oh, this is
okay,
like a
all
whole
right, all
thing
right,
that
all
I
right.
it never even crossed my mind, never occurred to me. So yeah.
Well, no, I'm kind of that's interesting to me because yeah, like I say, it's not something that I would be so front facing about, but I think yeah, so Maori people were the first, well, yeah, like the settlers of, or the people that lived in New Zealand,
Yeah.
and then colonized. But I think the difference between America and then, I mean, to be honest, in the same way that you referred to yourself as a dumb American, I'm a dumb New Zealander slash dumb person living in Australia. So I don't really know much about that side of American history. But
Yeah.
but
It's not
I
really our best time.
no, well, I like if it means anything, the Americans that I love. So it's yeah, I'm kind of from what I gather, there's the great divide, but so yeah, so but I think the difference maybe between Australia and New Zealand, for example, is that when New Zealand was colonized, they eventually had like a treaty that
Hmm.
was like between the Maori people and the um people from England or whatever. And so that kind of like because like Australia is very sad because like the Aboriginal people that were here for a trillion years.
Yeah.
Um, I'm just trying to figure out if I should say this. It's almost like without the kind of like activism that happens, it almost seems like a waiting game of really kind of. I'm trying to just create phrases properly because I'm also not from Australia, so I don't want to say the
Yeah.
wrong thing. But
I
yeah,
yeah, I get it.
but yeah, I think like it's almost like a waiting game for the government or whoever for I guess the um definitely the activism, but also like the people to not be here anymore. Like there's no like apart from kind of organizations and people that are like really invested in
Mhm.
maintaining it and like fostering the the culture and stuff. Like it's kind of very not very visible in Australia, but then when I moved here like 20 years ago from New Zealand, I was just like, where never mind, like no one really had kind of an answer for me. But whereas in New Zealand, I think because it's so small there, like so many people are like myself. So like even so, me and my husband Simon went back, um, met to play some shows maybe a month ago,
Hmm.
and I don't go back very often. And like you get off at the airport, and like everything's totally by there's Maori language everywhere. Oh, yeah, so Maori's not not the entirety. It's kind of like I guess similar to saying the native or the kind of as a whole.
Yeah.
But then yeah, and you really notice like I don't, like this is going to sound like blunt, but like the number of like brown people and like compared to white people. But I guess just to illustrate the difference.
You're kind of uh in some ways preaching to the choir. Like
Uh
I said, I live in Plymouth,
yeah,
and it is very much like look at the Mayflower, look at Plymouth Rock, the Pilgrims and natives were friends, and then you
I
do
did.
like
Yeah,
the slightest bit of
I did
yeah.
notice you say pilgrims to be honest, but no, yeah, and just to be clear, I'm definitely not lecturing about it, and also I'm
Mm.
definitely not an authority as well. Like at like yeah, please do yeah,
Yeah, no, no,
let that be known.
yeah, no, I was just really
Um,
curious because, like I said, I'm a big fan of history, and
yeah,
I feel like it's done a disservice by our school system, and
yeah,
living in
totally.
Plymouth, they very much push the whole Thanksgiving, which is
Yeah,
a United States thing, but
yeah,
it's the stuff that they gloss over is just
yeah.
kind of they gloss over the tragedy, and it's just like that just doesn't seem like the right thing to
It,
do.
it's depressing. I
Yeah.
like. I guess I kind of yeah, what you just described is okay. Yeah, so Australia's like that.
Hmm.
So we have like Australia Day, and there's always like big protests of people calling it Invasion Day rather than
Sure.
Australia Day.
Yep.
Um, so like if for like I guess like what America would consider the left or whatever, to have a barbecue and celebrate on that day is like not very chill at all. Even though my old boss, because he was miserly, insisted on having our work party every single day because it was the only day where everything had to shut, and
Yeah.
so and like just super embarrassing.
Yeah.
But yeah,
We have the same thing like on Thanksgiving. The Wampanoag, which is the local tribe, will
yeah,
go and have protests and speeches and
yeah,
marches.
okay,
And
yeah,
one year they
yeah,
buried Plymouth Rock, and so it's
yeah,
yeah, it sounds like there's a lot of similarities. So.
yeah. I guess for me, having lived in Australia and New Zealand, I kind of see New Zealand's quite like influenced by the UK, and Australia's quite influenced by America more.
Hmm.
Um, but yes, I think. But my kind of read on New Zealand has always been that's a little bit of a cynical kind of cash grab because it's such like a unacknowledged and like it's there's like I think there's 4 million people in New Zealand, but also 1 million live not away. And like
Yeah.
for context, I think in Australia there's however many million, like a lot more, and 1 million of them live overseas. Um, but yeah, so I guess there's New Zealand's got this kind of affect of looking really like accepting, but I don't. But what's happening currently in New Zealand is there's just like a terrible government like everywhere,
Hmm.
and they're like like there've been Maori place names and the treaty, and they're literally like trying to get all the and it was no big deal when I was growing up, but they're trying to change all the names of places and stuff back to the original ones that like I had didn't even know it existed in 1982 when I was born.
Yep.
And it's yeah, I mean
Yep. A lot
I'm
of
sure you've seen
similarities.
it.
So
Yeah, it's just fucking depressing because people perceive yeah, it is being like not like that. But yes, I guess the reason why sorry to answer your original question, the reason why I've been more front facing with it is because like I don't present like Maori like for my family. Like I'm definitely the white like the most pale to look at me one,
Yeah.
and then um and but I also like a bit of like I'm like this is a long story, so I'm not going to get back like family weirdness because mum was white and my mum was white and crazy, and my dad was Maori and depressed. So there was a lot of like dissonance there, and
Hmm.
like for me. But then but also just because that passing thing of like not like I don't feel disadvantaged by my heritage because I don't haven't experienced that because of how I look. But then I spoke to my friend who works in like Aboriginal arts like in Australia, and she was kind of like, because she rang me up and she's like, I hope this isn't weird, but do you ever put like your Māori heritage on grant applications? And I was like, no. And I kind of said, apart from the fact that I um, politically think that the government shouldn't fund art because it's counterintuitive. But um, she said that, asked me that question. I kind of like said what I said to you, like the family stuff,
Hmm.
and but also, like, and she was kind of, she gave me this long explanation, which basically said two things, which I think kind of encapsulated it quite well. Like, one was like, she's like, girl, there's so many people. Like, she's like, I know so many girls who are exactly like you, who don't feel connected to their culture, but she's like, you are. And she's like, people would be interested in your story because she like said people would relate to it. And it kind of suddenly struck me that I literally talk about everything else, like suicide and whatever, in my shit or whatever,
Yeah.
but I don't talk about that. And it felt like a weird omission. And then, but number two, which is the most interesting thing she said, was that she kind of blew my mind a little bit and I'm still kind of thinking about this, that she's like, no, like culture is about like rather than like a percentage that you are or even the person that you are, like it's about preserving ideas. And that's what is, and it really struck me because like that's obviously what her background is, being in like facilitating art,
Yeah.
Aboriginal people. And yeah, I don't know, it sounded, I don't know, do you think, I found it sounded really, it was quite beautiful to me that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, and that's like where we are located in, the Boston and south of Boston area. There's a very heavy um amount of people that can trace their ancestry back to Ireland, and including myself. Um, and it's something that I feel like the majority of people here are very proud about. And my father growing up listened to Irish music, and I was kind of like, I don't get it. And then it was kind of like, oh, it's just kind of like that connection of not only like where you're from, but like where your family came from, and
Yeah,
kind of it's just it's more of a personal history than like grand scheme history, and
yeah,
so
yeah,
yeah, so I found it interesting, and just kind of like it's nice to have something to kind of connect with other people with, kind of in a shorthand. And it's not like anything serious, like I can't use it to apply for grants or anything. It's
yeah, yeah.
but it's just,
Just to
yeah.
be clear, I don't get, irritatingly, I
Yeah.
don't get grants.
Oh no, I just
That's
I
what
mean I
that's
just
what
meant
she told
it's
me.
no, I
I
just mean
think
it
she's
it,
gonna help
it
me out.
holds no weight whatsoever
Yeah,
in any aspect other than um you know people just assume that I drink Guinness, which I do.
yeah,
Um but yeah, so I don't know, it's just kind of like a way of kind of like remembering my family, I think, is really how I look
yeah.
at
I kind of relate to that. Like if I see, like at the shop that I buy cigarettes from
it. Yeah.
down the road, like there's like a big Māori guy that works there because obviously lots of people move from New Zealand. And he's kind of, are you from New Zealand? And I was like, and I'd kind of seen like he looks like I could see.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it just made me feel like when I went out to my husband was waiting outside, and I was like, "Oh, he's one of mine." Like, which is what I always say when I see
Yeah.
see people like that. And I probably look like a complete weirdo, like kind of like smiling benevolently to people that don't know me or whatever. But yeah, I kind of know what you mean. Like, it makes you feel like almost like you have a place,
Yeah.
or and also Irish people historically are great, aren't they?
Historically, they're what? Great.
Are great, yeah.
Uh,
Like in
yeah,
terms
I
of like
mean,
they got fucked over too.
yeah. They, we weren't looked upon well when when they
No, when you, I think,
yeah when
in terms
when
of yeah.
yeah when they immigrated, there was a lot of Irish need not apply signs, and
Well,
they suffered through famine, and
yeah,
yeah, not awesome, but a lot better than some other cultures have managed. And yeah,
yeah,
it's yeah, it's weird, and it's like so my original family's last name was O'Driscoll, and they
yeah.
dropped the O so they wouldn't be
Oh
thought
no,
as Irish.
oh
And
no.
but it's like, have you looked in the mirror? We all look the same, like we're all red hair, and so it's just it's very weird to kind of it's that definitely happened, but complaining about that and how other cultures have been treated and colonized seems like kind of you can be like, yeah, it happened, but it's not a big deal. It's
But see,
way
this is what I said exactly. Like, for kind of from a different angle, I said exactly what you said, really, and that's kind of what my friend responded with. And like, if it means anything, like I've always perceived Irish people as like treated. I mean, obviously, who gives a shit about my opinion? But yeah, and didn't they weren't they really Irish people because of, well, not necessarily just because of, but didn't they come good on Israel Palestine really early on too, and be really vocal as opposed to other countries?
huh, that I don't know. That I'm not
I
sure
think they
about.
did. I
Yeah.
feel like they were like, I feel like Irish people in South Africa were kind of. I totally could be wrong about that, so
Yeah.
apologies to anyone
Uh,
listening. But yeah,
it would make sense because there was a lot of like hostilities and the IRA. Again, I'm not a historian,
yeah.
but you
We
know,
should totally send this to like all the historians,
and
like
they'd be like,
just so you know.
just get an email that's like 4 pages long of what we got wrong. But I could see them coming out on one side for that simply because like they have the long history of the kind of the um religious violence, and the division between oh man, now you put me to the test, the Catholics and the Protestants,
Yeah, I was
I
gonna
think.
say
Yeah.
Irish are mostly Catholic, hey?
Yeah, here
Yeah.
back in Ireland, I think I don't know which side is more popular or larger, but there was real like car bombs and terrorist type violence, between
Yeah, yeah.
Irish people.
We learnt about that at school. I remember, yeah, not learning about Maori history, but I remember learning, like, when I was like 15 or whatever, there was like, a semester on Irish culture in particular. Yeah.
Yeah. And there were the area that I grew up in, there's a really famous mobster named Whitey Bulger, and he part of what he would do would send guns and weapons back
Well,
to aid in the conflict in Ireland, and so
yeah. Yeah, I feel like yeah, my perception has been like, I know there's a bit of, I'm gonna probably say something really um like trigger warning stupid, but
it's
if
fine.
Yeah, I feel like
Yeah,
when people try and draw the comparison, don't they kind of say like wage slaves? Like there's like I think why do you know? I think that's kind of contribute or kind of stupid to say because it compares um
it's one of
the
those where,
two.
yeah, you're trying to like piggyback on someone else's misery, being like,
Yeah, or
yeah,
rather than one was so extreme that it makes like diminishes.
yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah, but it also just so I don't get just so I don't seem like a massive asshole. I think sometimes because I'm from New Zealand, like my language and stuff around things might be really kind of clumsy. Like for example, when I like in New Zealand when I was growing up, at least I think this has changed since I mean I'm 42 now, so like and I haven't lived there for a long time, but like I've been here for almost 20 years. But
hmm
then yeah, like I came here and I remember I had a landlord when I was, and then when I had a landlord who worked for Aboriginal Affairs or whatever, which I think is like not good. But and I referred to myself as half caste, which is like at the time at least was like super, or seemed super normal for me to say as a kid.
yeah,
And but then he kind of looked a bit taken aback, and I was kind of like, oh, would you not say that here? And he's like, kind of explaining that because of the you know there's a stolen generation in Australia. Again, this is me, but where they took, one of the things when you look up the definition of genocide, like
yep,
one of the things, like when they try to prevent the people carrying on, and so they removed the children,
hmm
and they totally did that in Australia. So there were all these displaced like children from, and so and they were this is just what I interpret, but like really obsessed with the like pure blood or like but whereas in New Zealand that and maybe just because there's so many like mixed race people, yeah, it just seemed so yeah, I think sometimes my because of that my growing up, I think a lot of things that maybe I would say might not be considered okay in like other places.
yeah. It's interesting. Like we even have, so sometimes it feels like Massachusetts people speak a different language than the rest of the country because we have a lot of slang and shorthand that frequently gets misunderstood. And for one very common term here is, instead of referring to a liquor store, we call it a packy. And like, oh, I'm gonna run to
uh
the packy
do
and
I
get.
do I know why?
Well, there's a
I feel like
very,
I might know why.
I guarantee you don't, but I feel you. I think you're gonna say the same reason that everyone says, and they're like, that's racist. And
Yeah,
what's your guess?
I was going to say what you said in the way that one time I was working in a kitchen and I thought that the dishwasher's name was Rogan until I found out that he was Nepalese and they called him Rogan because of Rogan Josh, an Indian dish. So I felt like whatever you were going to say, I
So,
thought it was that.
yeah.
Like, yeah,
So yeah, that's the generally people be like that. Yeah, I can't believe you call it that because Pakistani people work there and blah blah blah. And we're like, what are you talking about?
yeah,
And,
yeah.
and the one,
So what's the reason?
well, so one of the interesting things is the majority of people who live here in Massachusetts don't know the reason. They're
Ah,
like, it's just the packy. It's just always been the packy. And what it is we had prohibition here where
yeah.
alcohol was outlawed. And when they repealed it, there was a state bylaw that said you could buy liquor, but when you left the store, it had to be wrapped in a brown paper package.
Ah,
And
it's so
so they became package stores, which we just shorted to the packy. And
yeah. Well,
so, and
that's
then
cool. I
yeah,
like that.
yeah, there's other ones that, my nephew got a hard time when he was in the army and he was in California.
Yeah,
And sprinkles on ice cream. I think in England they call
like
them hundreds of thousands or whatever.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So the chocolate ones, my whole life we've been growing up calling them Jimmys.
Yeah,
And so my nephew was in California and he'd order ice cream. He's like, "Oh, can I get chocolate Jimmys on that?" And the woman at the counter
yeah.
gave him a really hard time. He's like, "What are you talking about?" And she's like, "That's a racial slur and blah blah blah." And he's like, "That's just what we've always called them." And then you start to wonder where the word came from. And that's another one that is kind of like lost in history. No one's 100% sure, but there's one of the big ice cream chains here. When you got chocolate sprinkles, they used to make a donation to the Jimmy Fund.
Oh wow, yeah,
So
yeah.
they
Oh,
just called
that's
them
so.
Jimmys. It's so.
Those two stories make me sad because it's like,
But
yeah,
it's just interesting about how like I think there's so many like interesting points that where like you shouldn't judge till
yeah,
and kind of just don't assume you understand what people are talking about. And slang is who knows where some of it
yeah.
comes from. And so
Like that's super interesting. I think I've maybe got like a more not as uh like this doesn't these aren't really comparable, but like I have obviously my Māori side of the family still live in New Zealand and they're super isolated, like in that they live in like it's the family farm and
yeah.
like it's kind of in the middle of nowhere. It's where I grew up, and my one of my half brothers, whose actual name is Christian,
Mhm.
or his like name on his birth certificate or whatever, but he is adopted, so he is the darkest one of everybody, and like he's like super not like he's the opposite of white passing. And then his his name my whole life growing up has been N word or shortened to half of that. And like I've talked to like lots
Yeah.
of people in New Zealand, and they're like Maori people, and they're like, yeah, we had a farm dog called that, and that kind of thing. And like like that's obviously quite. But for like if I said that, like I kind of prepped Simon
Yeah.
for that when we went to visit them,
Yeah. Yeah.
and like also because Christian's covered in like kind of gang slash Māori tattoos or whatever, and like he's kind of like a very not intimidating because he's really sweet. I don't really know him. Like I'm not super close to him, but he's like he's quite like an imposing guy,
Sure.
and yes, I kind of prepped Simon, but like I kind of like I'm positive, and I know that if I said something to them like that's not chill at all, they would
Yeah.
actually look at me like I'd crawled out of cheese. Like they would just think it was the most insane thing. Just like there's no like it's so removed from like the insidious
Yeah.
context that it's just like they would be like, are you kidding me?" Like, yeah.
That's just
So
his name. Yeah. Yeah. That kind of. Yeah.
yeah, like
Yeah.
not that it's like they've just got no like not in an uneducated or anything way, but just like there's no context for them to think that that's like cruel to him or yeah, like it's
Yeah.
a term of endearment, really. Like yeah,
Yeah. Interesting.
yeah,
Yeah.
but it's
It's
not
weird.
a fun story to tell.
No, but it's weird because like I recently had on Karen Stoles now, and
Yeah,
she is a linguist and wrote a book called Bitch, and it's like the history of the word, and it's about how like it was used to kind of like keep women in their place and be very misogynistic. And she's like, and then at some point like there was a turn and like women are trying to like take it back. They're like, oh, I am a bitch, or that's my bitch, that kind of thing. And so it's not nearly as extreme of a word, but I think
no,
I think it's natural that you know if you use a word derogatory enough, then like that group will kind of try to take some of the sting out of it or the power out of it and kind of use it themselves and be like, well, that's
yeah,
our word.
totally.
So
I feel like women have a lot to thank gay men for helping
Yeah.
that word be normalized. At least in like the 1 million gay friends that I have. But what you're saying is like super interesting to me, also because um I've been doing a lot of like songwriting for other people,
Hmm.
um, which is like relatively new for me, like in the last couple of years. And so there's been a lot of like listening back to your own words through someone else's like experience and, you know, feelings like almost as though like when I'm like rehearsing the songs with them for recording or whatever, like there's kind of like a moment when you feel them inhabit it, and then I feel like stepping. That's when I can step back and be like, oh, this is yours now, like, and then I don't
Oh,
feel
that's interesting.
attached to it. Yeah, and I kind
Yeah.
of like literally last night I was just thinking about how like this is kind of a no-brainer, but also like massively significant. Like words literally mean something different to everyone, and it's kind of like I'm in psychoanalysis because I'm an insane person, but they, that's kind of a lot of where that what is centered around because you and I can talk, but we can only really approximate understanding, and language is our only tool to achieve that. And so, your experience of this undoubtedly is going to be different to mine because, you've for like infinity reasons.
Hmm.
And I think with songwriting, that's kind of what, because it kind of, it's kind of interesting to me that no matter how specific I make my own personal stuff that I release, like people still say, oh, that's oh my God, that's exactly like what happened to me or whatever. And that kind of perplexed me for a while. But then when I've thought about it, and especially like listening to my own shit back to myself, I'm like, oh, I kind of see how, like say, I'm just going to say something like, you know, I went down to the shops or whatever. Like everyone has, at their own, you know, first like idea of like their memory of going to the shops and then their own idea of the shop that it is like, is it like a
Hmm.
mall or is it like whatever, and then like the context around that will inform that too. So if it's a line about like a river, then that will compass the shops and but then also like a phrase like, I don't know, someone was pulled from up the fire or whatever, like that can be positive or negative because like you can be rescued or it can be sad that you were in the fire. Do you know what like
Yeah.
I'm I'm
You're
giving terrible examples.
no, no. You made me think of uh Eddie Vedder in Pearl Jam
Yeah,
and their first album. They have the song "Alive," and
I know it well. Know it well.
yeah, and so um apparently like he had his meaning behind it, and then he would hear the fans singing it back as it grew in popularity, and it's like their tone was like I'm still alive, to carry on, and it's a positive thing. And he's like, it's not a positive song. And he's
Yeah,
at some point he was kind of like, well, it's their song now, so if they see it as a positive
you
thing,
know
he's
what?
like, that's what it should be. And
That's so cool. Yeah, I think it's strange. Not no, like I've got a friend that works in like kind of television, like
mhm.
like with lots of co-writing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And she told me there was this thing called overwriting, sorry. So like say if there's multiple people working on something, and this is again, this is like the history talk, like this is
Yeah.
what someone told me. But like multiple people working on something, and then but they've got to keep the character consistent or
Oh,
whatever.
sure. Yeah.
That like in that scenario, like, and she said that she's been overwritten lots, and she has overwritten lots of people in terms of they kind of do the final edit and then like slash and burn what they need to or change what they need to make it work. And she said it's really interesting because some people get really offended and really are precious about that. And she's like, that's the job. You can't be like clutched
Yeah.
around it because that's kind of part of it. And if you don't understand that, that will kind of eventually be like a problem for you because that's kind of necessary. And it really, yeah, I don't know how you feel, but that kind of,
It
yeah.
I did a public um artwork piece. God, now it's quite a while ago. The town paid for all these fiberglass lobsters to be made, and different artists painted them in different ways.
That's like how big was it? That's so cool.
It was like, I think, probably about 5 foot tall, I think.
Ah, cool. Yeah, yeah.
And
I love stuff that's like a tiny, like not hugely big or not like small, like hugely tiny, but that's just like a tiny bit bigger or a tiny bit more
yeah, and there was
smaller
like
than what it is.
there were like 30 of them all over the town.
That's so crazy. That's cool
Yeah.
ass.
And so like I painted it, whatever. They put it out on display, and then I was just like, whatever. It's and someone's like, oh, they spray painted it, they vandalized it, and I was just like, okay. They're like, you're not mad? I'm like, it weirdly, I was like, no, it's not mine anymore. Like, I felt
Yeah,
when it got put out, it wasn't mine, and that like as things, they cleaned up the spray paint because they're sealed or whatever. But it was like as all that happened to me, that was like part of the work now. Like it's in the community, so everything that happens to it, whether it gets damaged in a storm or whatever, like that's part of the piece now. As far as I can, to me, I was
yeah,
done. It was a weird disconnect that like as soon as it went up, I'm like, not mine anymore.
yeah, yeah. I think literally as you're talking, I was just like, that's why art represents time.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
yeah, like it's kind of yeah, and I kind of feel like if you were like, I'm sure there are like really good and really successful artists that you know uh, don't do what I'm about to say, but for me personally, I think that's like something to respect and like a really good attribute because it feels like generous, not kind of not either self-righteous or like kind of what's the word? Oh, pretentious,
yeah,
like you're especially for public art. I think that
yeah. I mean, like, how
yeah,
upset could you be that it got? I guarantee every single one of them was peed on by a dog. Like, how precious are you going to be about it? And
that's too funny. What I'd love to hear you say that in like a council meeting.
I
It's
probably
like
would. I probably would. I'm not smart enough not to say things. But yeah, I knew artists that like were going back and like constantly touching them up and repairing them and complaining about how much money they spent upkeeping them. And I'm just like, I walk by it, I see it. Friends of
it's
mine
kind of
send me
always
pictures of
cool because it's like people are like, what are they? If I was like a corporate person, I'd be like, that's high engagement. like
it.
like people are interacting with
Yeah.
it and like seeing it
Yeah.
and
I mean, I think the only time that I felt like it was mine again was friends of mine owned a distillery that was being featured on like a local news program,
yeah, yeah.
and the program kicked off and the guy was standing next to the one I painted, and we're at like this watch party and I yelled, I'm like, that's my lobster.
Ah, that's
Yeah,
cool. But
yeah.
that's like how I was like, I've been to Boston, like this kind of,
Yeah,
like when you say somewhere that I reckon that's really cool.
yeah.
Like,
But yeah,
yeah,
it's I don't know. And I, I feel like people are too precious about too much.
yeah, definitely. And yeah, I guess like that's like an openness to or like yeah, like an awareness of other people's experience too. Like just because like you don't have to understand it, but like to be not be precious about it. I think that's just like oh, other people have their own. And also, I'm thinking about like on one of the main roads or like the main roads, like the main road by my house that goes to the like the proper city in Melbourne. Um, just like so many times going past on public transport, and there's the same man like with the paint roller rolling off like covering up new graffiti, like, and he looks pissed off every time.
Yeah.
Like, and like, in Australia, it's like, I don't know what it is in like, and this is Celsius or whatever, but like, not. Oh no, what are we? Celsius, not Fahrenheit. Yeah,
Oh, we're
yeah,
Fahrenheit. We do
yeah,
Fahrenheit.
yeah.
Yeah.
So like, it's like, it's like 40 degrees Celsius. I don't know what that is, but like,
I don't know
yeah,
what it
just
is, but
see,
I think that's hot, right?
it's hot as fuck, and like
Okay.
seeing him angrily, I'm just like, at what point are you gonna be like, just, and it's not even his house. It's like, I think it's literally the building that's the charismatic Catholic. Like, I think it's the Italian charismatic Catholic. Do you know what? I only just learned that. Do you know what that means?
I have no idea what that means. What is a charismatic Catholic?
Well, yeah, because neither did I, and I would always go past that. I knew it would obviously be something weird, but
Yeah.
I would just be like, "Lol, that's quite a funny." Like, it's like imagining like all these really like like not flamboyant, but really like people who exude like really stylish,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
hilarious people or whatever. Like, that's where those Catholics go. But then someone I can't remember who it was, but said that it's, oh my god, again the history thing, but I think it's yeah, people who do the speaking in tongues and the that,
Oh,
yeah,
that.
which is like obviously quite unusual for cat, even
Yeah.
though like, I just, for context, I was brought up very Catholic,
Yeah.
but and I don't think they get enough heat these days, to be honest. But like, yeah, it's like,
Yeah. I
obviously
I
that's not, yeah,
I've always, and it could just be a different offshoot or whatever. They're kind of labeled here as evangelical Christians.
mm.
So,
Yeah, actually I've heard that, but I've never
yeah.
put that together. But yeah, for sure, I feel like it's like synonymous with that from
Yeah.
my understanding. Yeah.
But charismatic. That's way funnier.
Right, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, it sounds
Because
cool.
evangelical sounds pretentious. Charismatic sounds just like, yeah, he's a cool guy, you know?
Yeah, like it sounds like everyone's got their
Yeah.
like collars up, you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
their Air Jordans on. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you, because you're Irish,
Yeah.
were you brought up Catholic as well?
I was brought up Catholic. My father's family was very Irish Catholic.
Yeah.
They were from just south of Boston, 11 brothers and sisters, like
Yeah.
poor, very quintessential, like Irish American.
Yeah.
I pretty much left the church before I was allowed to. Like, my parents insisted on me being confirmed.
Yeah.
And I think that was the last day I ever went to church in any like real capacity. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Of that's, yeah, that's like what, 12, 11,
12, yeah.
12? Yeah, yeah. Yeah, what was your confirmation name? Can you remember?
George, yeah.
Is that like your,
I literally didn't, I was so disinterested that I was refusing to pick a name, and my mother's like, it's gonna be George, because that was her father's name. And I'm like, whatever, I don't care.
that's so, but
Yeah.
it is like, is George even a like Catholic?
Saint? I believe so.
Yeah, it just sounds quite
I think
like
so.
funny, like you chose like
Yeah.
Warren or something, which actually would be
Yeah.
really. Your mine was,
Do
oh,
like do the Frank Zappa thing, be like, my confirmation name is Moon Unit.
yeah, like they, oh yeah, obviously they wouldn't allow it, but fuck, it would be good if they did.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, everyone, yeah, all the women on my mum's side of the family, their middle name's Mary,
Yeah.
but like, for, in way of explanation, like the only reason I really use it is because there's this 80s Australian actress called Sarah Chadwick, and I just like remember, because I'm from literally no one under the age of 35 would have any idea who this woman was, but
Yeah.
like, I just wanted it to be like Googleable when I was like 20 or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yep.
But yeah, all the women on my parents, like my mum's side, their middle name is Mary, and then because I was so like
It's
under
funny. I
my
saw
mom.
when your name first came through, I'm like, Sarah Mary Chadwick. That sounds very Irish.
Well, yes, my
Yeah.
confirmation name annoyingly was my mother's name, Catherine,
Yeah.
which is whatever. But
Oh my God, Sarah Mary Catherine. That's even more Irish.
right. Well, that's so funny. So my last name's Chadwick, right?
Yeah.
And my dad's Māori name was Hikiawa, but his sorry, can I just say, Andy, this is making me really happy because, like I say, I've never really put that on stuff before, but I'm glad that it's like a cool thing and like a good thing to talk about,
Yeah.
not like a weird grit like crowbar and like grit shorter thing. Yeah, I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
No, it was more like I said before we start recording. I don't plan questions because I feel like if I do that, then I ask a question, I'm just figuring out how to get to the next question, opposed to really
Yeah,
listening and asking the things that I want to know, like that seem
yeah, it's
interesting,
cool. I'm happy. Yeah, like when you do press releases and you're kind of like it took me a while to realize this, but you're almost writing your own thing that you're going to hear back
If
to
you do it in
yourself. So
like a
like
third person, it's so weird. I hate it.
I know
Yeah.
I think they left it in there, but there's something in mine that's like Sarah Mary Chadwick really knows what. I shouldn't sound mocking. I'm saying this,
it's your
but
it's
like
your podcast or your press release. You can mock it if you want.
just a massive
What do you
asshole.
mean, mad at yourself?
No, well, because I didn't write this.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
didn't write this part of it,
Okay.
but I'm gonna say it because I voiced it at the time,
Yeah.
and it's not actually a bad it's not a fucking tragedy, but it was some line that I think was left in there in the final, but like Sarah Mary Chadwick knows what the right song or the wrong song can do to a bar or something, right?
Yeah.
And then I was like, please don't put that in there because every fucking time I talk to someone, it's gonna be like, give me your top 5 playlists for.
Oh, for the right songs.
Yeah, and I was
Yeah.
like, I don't want to do that. Like, don't make me. I think that's good. Like, I'm relieved to have the conversation we're having, not that.
Yeah. All right.
But
I'm
yeah.
gonna I'm
So
gonna erase all this and I'm gonna start over.
no, don't. My God, I'd be so disappointed. Um, yeah, my mum. So yeah, I was kind of. I've never really been one of those people who go to ancestry.com or whatever and figure out their stuff. But somehow I got on this weird internet like K-hole and was like found myself on like a through a like a old guy's blog
Mhm.
that hasn't been touched for years or whatever, and it was all my family history on my dad's side, but only the yeah. So my last name's Chadwick, which is strange
Yeah.
and it came from my dad's side, and my understanding of it, and again because of my family, like um divide and like estrangement, like this, there's a lot of kind of black spots in my knowledge about it, but my understanding of it was that because my dad was 20 years older than my mum, so
Mhm.
he died maybe like I think coming up 10 years next year, and so he was 80 when he died, and my mum's, I assume, still alive in New Zealand, but we don't talk. But
Yeah.
hi mum if you're listening, but but yeah, she creeps on the internet a bit, I think. But I my understanding was that my dad's mother, who passed away just after I was born, had a South African husband, like either hers or the generation before her. But then yeah, when because my dad's full name was William Chadwick,
Yeah.
and then like when same as you with O'Driscoll and then Driscoll,
Yeah.
so with William and Hikiawa, but then yeah, there was like all like millions of Irish Williams.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, I didn't
Oh yeah.
know. I
That
think it
is
comes from Irish side, not from what I thought. Yeah.
yeah. My son is named with a traditional Irish name, and it's William in Gaelic. It's Liam, and
Yeah, yeah.
it was so funny. Like we were thought at the time, we're like, oh, this will be cool and different, and we thought the same thought that every other parent at the exact same time, to the point where we would take him to the pediatrician and we would have to give his full name and date of birth because there was another Liam J. Driscoll that went
Fuck.
to the same. And I'm like, how does that even happen? There's three names. We got them all. So
Yeah, three
yeah,
three names. I've
yeah,
never. That's the trifecta. I've never heard.
yeah.
Yeah, because do you mind my asking what year you're born?
Me? Oh, 75. I'm old.
Because
I
I'm trying
just
to think of Andrew. If
I
is it
just
Andrew?
turned. Yeah, yeah.
Yes. So I'm trying to think of
But only
like.
my mother called me Andrew.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah. So I'm just trying to think of whether like I'm trying to age stamp your
yeah.
your name like whatever. So were there heaps of because I felt I knew.
I grew up and occasionally I'd run into. I still run into them, but it's not a very common name.
Yeah,
Um,
Andrew's a nice name. I think I
yeah.
like it. Yeah. Well, because my mum, being the extremely imaginative woman that she is, sorry for anyone listening, eye rolling, but but she named my brother Matthew and me Sarah, and then so I
And
was born in 82,
those
and
very common names then.
I think like they were
Yeah.
literally like when they published like
The top
shitty
like 10. Yeah.
yeah, I think
Like you
both.
you published a list of your top 10 songs, that like that kind of
Yeah, like exactly.
thing.
I'm trying to think of a funny one to have at the top, but I can't. Um, yeah, so when I went to school, I had to. Yeah, there was a Sarah Casey,
Yeah.
and like so many other Sarahs that I couldn't be Sarah C. I had to be Sarah Ch. But I've never heard your one. That's
Yeah.
insanity.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And my business partner, um everyone that we do business with knows him as Fish.
yeah, okay. Like PH or F.
F.
Yep.
Everybody. Um his real name is Mike.
Yeah.
And I was working one time and I went into work and my friend's like, "Oh, what'd you do last night?" I'm like, "Oh, I went to the movies with Sousa, Fish, Sherpa, and EMT Mike." And she's like, "What are you, 12?" And I'm like, "I went to the movies with Mike, 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 and Mike." And she goes, "Oh, that makes sense."
That's
Yeah.
so good. Guys, like men love a funny name though, to be honest. Like so Simon and one of his besties yeah, exactly the same thing. So his name's Pop, or I got introduced to him as Pops. His like music name is Walter, and then his actual name is Nathan.
Yeah.
And but then they have like they always talk about these two guys who like lots of them I've never met, but I just remember the stories. But like they're both called Dave, and I've never met either of them. But there's some long story about one of them where they were just like surprised and like it's just burned into their minds that when they went to his place, he had a pair of owl scissors.
Okay.
Like whatever the fuck that is, like, I didn't see it.
Yeah.
And so whenever they're talking about Dave's, I'm always like, oh, owl scissors or whatever. And they're like, yeah, owl scissors. And
Yeah. It's I don't know if it's you know Massachusetts thing. I don't know if it's just my friends or the people I gravitate to. Everyone ends up with a nickname,
yeah.
or you,
What's
or
your
you.
what's yours?
It's just Andy, and
Yeah.
like yeah.
Yeah.
But there's this one girl I know. She's a bartender,
Yeah.
and I was out on a date, and she happened to be tending bar,
Yeah.
and she either dropped the check or like gave us drinks, and I was like, "Thanks, Pumpkin." And the girl I was with lost her shit. She's like, "What did you call him?" I'm like, "Pumpkin, that's her name. I don't know what her real name is."
That's I can totally imagine that. That's so funny.
Yeah,
But like literally everyone calls her that.
like I did not know her name,
Fuck this.
and she
I
worked
want to
at
know the
multiple
origin.
bars, and like you weren't like, "Oh, you were like, oh, is Pumpkin working today?" And they're like, "Ah, she's working at this." Like everyone knew her, and everyone knew her as Pumpkin. It's
That's
just how, yeah.
so. That's really. It kind of reminds me of this guy. You know when people not that like
Mhm.
that's like that sounds like an inherited like you were given that way or whatever. But you know how some people change their names like in a like pretentious way, you know,
Yeah,
we've both used that multiple times, but yeah, like and especially young, like as a bit of an affectation or whatever. And so my friend lived with as like one of my oldest friends who I played in bands with and whatever. And then she lived with a guy called Oscar. And then we'd always known him as Oscar. He was a bit of a dick, you know, whatever.
yeah,
And then he decided, and so we're probably like 18 or 19 or something, but he decided to change his name to Osaka. That was like no context, no, like he
yeah.
wasn't like from Japan or anything. What do, what do they call people who obsess over, is it called weebs? I think someone told me that.
I've never heard that.
I don't know if it,
Yeah.
fuck, it's not super offensive, but I think that's what they call like white people that are obsessed with Japanese things. But
Oh, maybe.
yeah, but
I know friends who would know. I just don't know what's going.
yeah, I know
Yeah.
friends who would know too, and one of them's my husband's brother. But yeah. So, but anyway, then one day the like police or whatever came to the door, and they were like, I can't remember what the name was, but it was something like Ben or Paul or like one
Yeah.
of those kind of. And I, oh, is Paul here or whatever? And then they were like, what? And then it turns out that that was his like birth name. They'd
Yeah.
only known him as Oscar, and then he changed it to Osaka. And he was a bit of a dick,
Uh,
but you had to pay it to him. Like he really he pulled it off.
yeah.
Like
It
he managed to make Osaka stick somehow.
you just made me so when I was a little kid, we
Yeah,
had to make a family tree. And like I said, my father had 11 brothers and sisters. And so I bring in my family tree, and the teacher's like, you have to redo this. And I'm like, what are you talking about? She's like, these are not your relatives. And I'm like, they are. And so then I go home and I'm all like bummed out. And I'm like,
yeah.
she says these aren't my relatives, that my relatives aren't Tubby, Red, Noki, Buddy. And she goes, oh, well, Noki's Eileen and Red is Joe. And I'm like, just as this little kid, I was like, what?
Yeah, like why did they make it so hard for
Yeah.
you?
And I'm like, so Midgie's not Midgie? They're like, no, she's Alta. And I'm like, what? And it's just because 11 brothers and sister, they all came up with nicknames for each other and they all stuck. And that's, you
That's
know, yeah,
that's too good. Like I think the only thing, yeah, apart from N word and other people, but like, yeah, my dad had a similar thing where even though he had two names already, obviously his when like his mail from the bank, like everything would come to Toddy Chadwick,
yeah,
but it was because he was the youngest of like. See, this is my black hole of family. I think like around five or six siblings, and then yeah, and so I think they called him Totty, and then when he got to a certain age, you couldn't call like I don't know a 25-year-old man like Totty, and so it just like morphed into Toddy, and everyone called even Todd as though his name
yeah.
was Todd, like which is a proper name. Yeah,
And my mother's brother goes by Chip. His
yeah.
name's George. To the
Hold
point
on,
where
what's Chip? I'm trying. Is Chip Charlie? Oh, that's
nope,
Chuck.
you will never get this. So like
Um,
even to this
go.
day, his business cards say Chip on them
Yeah,
instead of George.
yeah.
And when he was born, my mother wanted a dog, not a little brother, and she wanted to name the dog Chipper. So she started just calling her little brother Chip, and it just stuck.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
I, I love that. Um, I get like Pops. I'm
Yeah.
literally gonna tell Pops to listen to this because he'll get such a kick out of this being mentioned. But so Pops slash Walter slash Nathan,
Hmm.
his like he's mad on this shit. Like he'll just think he'll find your stories like really funny. He's got a brother that I've never met. He's actually I think he's visiting Melbourne now, and I really want to meet this guy because everything I've heard, he sounds like like an amazing character. But his name, so he was referring to him as Richard,
Yeah.
and then like this is all. I have no explanation for any of these, by the way. But then his actual name is Justin, but then they call him Kimberly or like primarily Richard, but then as it mostly Kimberly or Auntie Kim.
Okay.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I don't know why, I don't know how, but that's yeah,
What
Kim.
one of my favorite nickname stories. So a good buddy of mine, Joey Eggs or Eggsy, and
Eggsy's the
Eggsy.
best.
So one day I was just like, "Why do they call you Eggs?" And he
Yeah,
goes, "That's a weird story." And I'm like, "Okay." He's like, "I was, out in the backyard with a mutual friend of ours." He's like, "We were smoking weed." And he's
yeah.
like, and somehow we came up with that I should be called Eggs, and it stuck. He's like, but I was so high, I don't remember. Like neither of them to this day remember why, but everyone calls him Eggs, but no one knows why.
I, I love the way you told that being like, and then we said this, and it was like you exactly nailed the the setup that he had no idea.
Yeah, he's just like, I don't know. So, but
Yeah, I'm quite good at. Maybe it's because of the Sarah thing. Like, I'm quite good at making nicknames stick. Like, so I one of my close friends is called Sarah Lewis, and I just started calling her Slewis, and then she tried to make Chadnut. Oh no, she tried to make Scatty take Scatty, like S, and then Chatty take off.
yeah.
Mine absolutely didn't. Everybody calls her Slowest, and then my other friend.
See, that's like
Oh,
me. Like everyone's
it's
like, you
only
need
a
a nickname, and it's never ever stuck. They've tried, and it doesn't work. But
same as
yeah,
me. I think it's
yeah,
because we're the alphas
yeah. Yeah.
because I don't have
I'm
it.
always I'm like I'm the nickname assigner. You can't give me a nickname.
I
Yeah,
relate to that really hard. Well, then my other one is another Sarah actually, and so and you know how everyone always tries to do the Sarah one, Sarah two thing,
yeah,
and like my sister-in-law, literally the joke is because she's been in the family so much longer than me is you know Sarah one, Sarah two, or whatever.
yeah,
But this other Sarah is her last name's Hardyman, and I this is the shittest name in the world. Started calling her Hardy Balls just as like a
yeah,
this is like probably 15, 20 years ago. And then she tried to make Chad Nuts take off again.
yeah,
Of course, did it all. Mine stuck. And then she moved back to, this is when we were in London, right? And then she
yeah.
moved back to Melbourne. And I was, now I call her H balls. Like it's still so, she doesn't really like it, which is, sorry,
Which makes it even more fun.
yeah, that,
Yeah,
because I'm sorry, they're non-binary, but I've known them so long that I constantly fuck it up. But yeah. So they've been here when I was still overseas, and they were here. We kind of it's ridiculous because we don't look the same at all. Like they're about a foot shorter than me. We kind of just have dark hair and a fringe, and maybe like quite long faces. Like apart,
yeah,
like it's ridiculous. But she said that so many people would go up to her and be like, she was me
yeah.
and be like, talk to me about the old band that I used to be in. That eventually they were like, oh, fuck, I just like say thank you now. Like, I don't even like. Oh, and she also
Yeah.
said that the reason why her tell of that they were my friend was people would be like, oh, are you like hi Hardy Balls? Like they would call it, and
Yeah.
they're always just like, oh, fuck you, Sarah Chadwick's friend. That's so annoying. Yeah,
um, so my youngest has come out as non-binary a
yeah.
couple years ago,
How
and
many kids
I
do
have
you have?
two. I have two.
Yeah, okay. Yeah,
Um, and so Zoe came out as non-binary, and I was just, they're on my mind, so I was just shooting over a text, and I texted them, "Hey, turd, I love you,"
yeah.
and they're like, "Wow, that's fucked up." Turd, really? And I'm like, I bet you if I text your brother, I would get an I love you. So I texted him and I'm like, hey, buddy, love you. And he just responds back, I love you too. And I screen capture it and sent it to Zoe.
Yeah.
And they're like, wow. So he's buddy and I'm turd. And I just went, yeah, but that's because turd's non binary. And so now,
And the
so now
response
I,
was,
now I constantly send them text, be like, yo, turd, what's up?
that's too. But can I just say like that? That's such a nice dad thing to do, like out of nowhere, to send like an "I love you" text. Like that's really
Yeah.
cute. Yeah.
They're really sweet kids. Oh, they're great.
How
Kids.
old are they?
So Zoe turns 21 this year and Liam's turning 23. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
they're great.
Are they still in where you live? Like, do they
So
live close to you?
Liam, they live fairly close. Liam lives still with his mother, and Zoe moved out and is living with friends, and
Yeah.
so
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's cool.
yeah,
Do you find it hard to, just how I did with my friend, like flip your language to the like the
it's interesting. When they
appro-
were growing up, I had no problem whatsoever. Like
yeah.
I very, very rarely swore around them.
Oh,
Um,
sorry.
what, what do you mean?
I meant flick. You know, how I was having
Oh,
problems.
the they
But
them she.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah,
it is complicated, and I've kind of stopped over. Like I try to use they them.
yeah,
I don't always, but I've kind of stopped, kind of like going back and going, oh wait, they that, because it's just like it happens too frequently. It's too ingrained in my brain. I make the
yeah,
effort.
yeah,
Um, the hardest time I think is where like they is a generally used in the plural and not a
yeah,
singular.
yeah.
So like I'll be like, oh, my youngest they did, and they're like, well, how many kids do you like? No, I'm just talking about one.
Yeah,
Or
like it's like it
yeah,
could potentially be that you had twins or
right, right. Or like
yeah,
I'll when they went to prom, I showed friends pictures of
yeah,
their prom date,
yeah.
and they're like, "Oh my God, she's so beautiful," and I'm like, "Yeah, they are." I'm like, "Not they, like they." I'm like, "Screw that guy."
Uh yeah, like you
So
were
yeah,
praising the two of them.
yeah, I'm like, I'm complimenting my offspring, not that kid.
I totally have experiences too, and you kind of feel like an asshole, but no, like, I mean, I definitely felt like an asshole, but
Yeah,
so with myself and my friend Jeff, who we do lots of recording together, and so like, like that they're coming into the studio and like a billion times, like like almost like Jeff, like suddenly being like, oh fuck, I've only set up for one or like whatever,
yeah,
and having to be like, oh, no, no, just like one, like it's not changed, it's and then kind of eventually we were just like, we have to just use their like people's name, like because it's too, like
yeah,
it happened so many times, like just panic of like we're doing something today that I'm absolutely prepared for, and but yeah, it just
yeah,
got a bit
yeah.
and
It's hard. You try to do it, and people. It's weird because I'll be like, "Oh, my youngest," and people just automatically assume they're a boy and be like, "Oh, how old is he?" I'm like, "Well, they are," and it's like, so it's weird
uh
just trying to like communicate. So it's like I get it and I don't have a problem with, but it kind of like you were saying earlier how like words have meanings, and it's
yeah,
in order
I
to
was thinking
communicate,
that
you both
too.
have to like have that same understanding. So
Yeah,
it complicates things, but like whatever. I don't know. It's not that big of a deal.
I'm really interested in that, like, because like like I was kind of thinking about art stuff, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, like, I'll do a plug. I do like visual art as well, but then
I was gonna
they
ask you about that, and then we totally went off the rails immediately.
but it doesn't sound as like that. Maybe that's why, or part of the reason why I love stuff like what you described,
Yeah.
because that's so it hasn't it's not a thing that has been demystified for me. Like I'm just like, wow, how would you do that? But because I only do like um kind of ink drawings on paper,
Hmm.
but yes, I was thinking about, there's an artist that from Melbourne that's like quite well known, who I'm friends with and I really respect, called Darren Sylvester, and he kind of does this work that's, I think his most famous one is he made like this beautiful furniture and this is a little while ago, that the upholstery was like cheeseburger or McDonald's wrapper printed,
Oh,
and
cool. His name sounds
yeah,
really familiar.
yeah, I kind of, I know he goes to like what are they called biennales or whatever, but I don't really have, and I like put it this way, he's successful enough that I asked him once, like put it this way, every friend of mine has at least one of my pictures that I have gifted them at some point for a birthday or something, right?
Yeah.
And I asked him how many people have yours, and he's like zero. And it's because it's just like that's, I guess, the the bracket that he's in. But
Yeah.
but his work somehow like really manages to like subvert and elevate and kind of like he kind of does really shiny, like almost like referencing advertisement or advertising, but then it's like I don't know, like it's perfectly. What's the word I want? Not orchestrated, but like what do you call it when you? Oh, it's kind of like know that photographer Jeff Wall, and he
Hmm.
does those. Yeah, so it's like what do you call them? Not is it orchestrated the word I want?
I think so.
Like when you look at a stage and it's all put in a perfect place. What's the word for that?
Oh,
I'm trying to
I think orchestrated works.
not
'Cause
planned, but whatever. Like
yeah.
fuck, oh, it escapes me, but yeah, but it kind of still has this kind of like movement. Interestingly, in terms of what we were talking about, like when I asked him about it a little while ago, he said, "Oh yeah, all my work's about death. Like it's like a snowman with its like head falling off or like
Yeah.
whatever." But but I was thinking about his work and yeah, and I'd not picked up on the death thing at all. But but there, yeah, I was thinking about how he so like really cleverly kind of hit some kind of perfect sweet spot where he flipped everything but flipped nothing,
Yeah.
subverted everything but elevated. Like it's transgressive, but it also is like could be a Nike ad. Like it's crazy. And I was thinking about like, and I wanted to draw an angel, right?
Yeah.
And I was like how would you know how that's like a really hackneyed kind of
Hmm.
image like a skull or like you know whatever, and then I was like how would you or how would I because I'm kind of like quite a shit like I can't really do likeness or like I'm not a great artist really, but yeah, like how would I subvert or elevate like a picture of an angel, and then I was like, could you draw like a bikini on it? And I was like, nah, that's I'm sure that's been done. Like kind of
Yeah.
going through like the ways, and then yeah, because in the context of how different things mean different things to people, and it
Yeah.
was kind of. Have you seen that latest Harmony Korine movie? That's shot in that like thermal wave or whatever it's called.
No.
It's called like. Anyway, people will know what it is.
Yeah.
Oh, drift, something kind of. It's quite telling that I can't remember it. But anyway, it kind of read as all these like I was quite enjoying it. Like read as these kind of multi-layered kind of like symbols that you could interpret or not.
Yeah.
Um, but then there was one scene that really fell flat for me because it was like you know how he loves a speedboat and
Yeah.
a like spring breakers style
You're breaking
thing.
up a little.
And there was one scene that was sorry.
That's okay.
Is it okay now?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think it's like a scene where it's Travis Scott on a speedboat with like like women in bikinis like
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
dancing or whatever. And then and it really kind of fell flat for me because it was kind of the only bit that I felt was like really like no layers, like what you see is what you get. And I was trying to think about why, and I was like, oh, it's because to interpret something or have like multi layers. And to be honest, it was one of those films where you watch and you're like, oh, this is interesting, and then you're like, how much am I bringing to this? Like
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
but yeah, this scene in particular, and I was like, oh, it's because I don't like that's not. Well, first of all, like that's not really what my connotation of like what a woman is. Like they're all kind of like really hot, like video clip kind of women, but then also it was because they everyone else is in costumes, and these women kind of like for whatever reason they looked as though they were like some looked like dancers or some looked like yeah like video clip girls. Like it looked like they were kind of dressed as themselves.
Yeah.
And then yeah, so that got me thinking about like what symbols mean, like the context made for everyone being different. And so thinking about this angel picture, and then I was like, oh, the best way to for me personally to subvert that would be to draw it as best as I could, and it would just come out completely cooked because I'm terrible at
That's an interesting. Yeah.
it. Really, really painstakingly did the best effort that I could to draw like an amazing, like lifelike picture, and it would just look completely. Well, yeah. What do you think that would do it?
It could. It could. It could be it, especially if you like you got to that kind of like weird uncanny valley where it looked photorealistic, but there was something off that people couldn't put their finger on because then it would be kind of like an unsettling angel.
Yeah, like I think that that will happen because I'm a terrible painter. Like I don't think I like if I try really hard rather than like normally I'd lean into my strengths, which is kind of like just like big bold
Yeah.
whatever. But then if I really swerved that and then just like tried really like or really like properly hard, like not smiley laughing hard,
Yeah.
I I don't know. I think it could be funny.
So you just made me think of, and we've interviewed them, but if you come back to Boston,
Yeah,
in Dorchester, there's a brewery called Dorchester Brewery,
yeah,
which Dorchester is just like this little subdivision of Boston, but it
yeah.
is also the home for the Museum of Bad Art,
Oh wow, I want to go there so bad. That's
and
cool.
it's
Can,
awesome.
can you tell me about it?
Yeah, so it's they have a collection of bad art that they've found, gifted, purchased, whatever. Um, and it rotates, they rotate out some of the pictures.
Yeah.
It's gone on tour, like it has toured the world. It is like a famous museum type thing.
So, so can I can probably look this up online, right? Because I
Yeah.
really,
And
yeah,
their thing is they're like, it can't be bad on purpose. It has to be
yeah.
someone genuinely trying to do something and missing.
I'm so into that.
Yeah.
That's like I'm kind of looking at a picture that I've got on like a weird, like I'm obsessed with that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then and so was one of my like, actually the friend that did the one that you can probably see like
Yeah, the
it,
behind you.
yeah, it's the cover of my first solo record, and like it's just the jankiest picture, and he really panicked, and like that's why that's got that weird grade, like what's it called, color gradient or whatever it is in the middle, because
Yeah.
I was like, I need it now, and he just like really, but but yeah, so on my wall, I'm looking at like a picture that I got in a secondhand store years and years ago of like it's framed. It's obviously like a picture that someone printed it out and like sent to low quality, but like quite big, like I don't know, like 40 centimeters high, like 20 wide,
Yeah.
and it's a picture of a girl who I call Patricia in normal car, but what I assume was like probably a rental limousine with like a crushed velvet purple dress on and like white gloves. It looks like probably from like the 80s or like super early 90s. Got like peroxided hair and she's wearing a plastic tiara that I think says birthday girl because it's a little bit blurry.
Yeah.
And she's got this kind of look on her face that's like I don't know, like almost like when her friends like take a picture and you're like, all right, I'll take it. And she's holding up a full glass of like a full home style like not a flute or anything, like a really clunky full glass of white wine, like toasting someone.
Yeah.
And it just the bit it's like, where were you going? Why was this the best part of your night? Like why was that the photo? Like did no one take any more photos? Like I don't know, it just raises 1 million questions.
That's fantastic. Yeah. I love
Yeah.
that you named her too. That's the best part.
Yeah, I kind of in the same way we were talking before about like
Yeah.
the symbols meaning different things. Like when I quit drinking, like I had quite a bad alcohol problem until like maybe like it's probably like 18 months now or something. But when I was drunk all the time, I used to think it was like Patricia giving me a toast, like we got this. But
Yeah.
when I look at it now, because her face is kind of weird, I feel like it's her toasting me like, fuck, you did what I can't do. You keep on. Yeah, I
That's
really.
awesome.
So I haven't taken it down at all.
Yeah,
Like I love. Yeah.
that's fantastic. I do have to wrap it up. This was fantastic. I really enjoyed this. Um,
Yeah. So thank you.
so your new album came out on April 4th, which I'm talking in past tense, even though it hasn't
Yeah.
come out yet, because when this
Yep.
goes up, it'll have already come out. Take Me to the Bar. What am I, a Gadsby?
Yep.
And yeah. And it's a full LP, right?
Yeah. I think it's. I cut a song, but I think it's still too long. But yeah,
Yeah.
it is. Yeah.
And where can people go to find out where you're playing, where to get the music? Like, is there
So it'll
website, social
be.
medias?
Yeah. So
All the
social.
stuff we were supposed to be talking about.
Okay. Okay. I'll go into what I think like professional mode is.
Okay.
So streaming everywhere. Socials. No plans to tour America at the moment, but it's literally just because poverty. But I've only been there once. Oh, I've only toured there once, and
Yeah.
but yeah, I'd love to come back and do some more shows over there. But yeah, no plans at the moment. But I'm kind of dying to. So if anyone wants to organize and maybe in paper, but
Yeah.
but yeah, I love this record because yeah, a lot of reasons. Like kind of one, the most obvious one because it's kind of just before I quit drinking. But like I don't know, it's kind of like I wanted to do a background record, like because my music's always kind of to a point that I think is quite intrusive or quite demanding. Maybe is the word I would use. I
Yeah.
wanted to do one that's a bit backgroundy that you just put on while you're having dinner or have on at a bar or something. Yeah, that was
Nice.
my intention anyway.
Well, if you do come back and hit up the Boston area, make sure you reach out. We'll
I 100% will.
yeah. And so listeners, that's she's Sarah Mary Chadnuts.
Damn, I'm gonna be so happy.
And so no, make sure you check out her album, check out her social media. And Sarah, thank you so much. I've said it 1,000 times, but I'm gonna say it again. My favorite podcasts are when a stranger comes in and I feel like a friend leaves. So this was a lot of
Yeah,
fun.
totally. And I think I never really know what I'm getting myself in for, but this was beyond surpassed my pleasant expectations. It was super
Oh,
enjoyable.
thank you. So listeners, we'll catch you guys back here next week with someone else, and I never know who it's going to be. So tune in next week. And thanks for checking out the show today, listeners. If you enjoyed the content today, you can go over to patreon.com/Inebri-art to support the show. You can join over there for just a few dollars a month and help us provide this fun content that you just checked out. You can also email us at Inebri-art.com with your questions, complaints, and concerns, or you can find us on all social medias at Inebri-art or at Inebri-art6 on Instagram. And also don't forget to check out our other shows, Bar Talk Podcast, Old Colony Cast, Inebri-art, and all the other shows on the Inebri-art Network, which you can find at Inebri-art.com. Thanks again for listening.